Students, today we'll take the next topic, that is evolution of angiosperms. In this we will see how the angiosperms have got evolved since their origin in the Cretaceous period. Life on earth had started inside the water, and then some of the organisms have migrated towards the land. They have adapted to the land condition, and in that process they have got changes inside their body. So therefore evolution can be said to be as the gradual changes or the slow changes which are occurring inside the body of organism so as to adapt to the changing conditions of the environment. That is the evolution. Now, when we talk about the evolution, we must consider what are the steps of the evolution. Now, Professor V.N. Naik has stated in his book that simplicity is often secondary. Thus, evolution follows the following steps. So, when the life arose on this earth, it was simple. Then it has become complex, and then it has again become simple. We can understand this concept by taking the example of the mobile phones. Mobile phones, when they came first, they were having the huge size, they were having the large amount of the weight, and they were having few numbers or few keys on them. Later on, this particular mobile phone have got reduced to a large extent, and it can fit to the pocket, a small pocket of any person. Later on, this mobile again changed, the keyboards have vanished, and then we are having the touch screen where there are no keyboards. So we can say that the external morphology have got simplified. So therefore there is a steady and a very gradual changes which are going on inside the body of organism. So there is a simple trend of becoming simple. So first of all they were simple. Now some of the organisms are complex now, and there is a next step will be the simplicity. So therefore V.N. Naik, Professor V.N. Naik has stated that the simplicity is often secondary. So whatever the simple things we are coming across in the body of or on the body of plants, they are said to be secondary, or they are sometimes secondary, which are mistakenly taken as primitive. That means secondary means most evolved, and some of the workers take it as a primitive one, but many a times such simple structure are found to be more evolved. Now we will take the next. Now majority of the phylogenists consider that angiosperms originated in the moist tropical regions, and this concept was propagated by the Daniel Axelrod in 1952 and 1960, which then supported by George Stebbins in 1974. So therefore angiosperms first they have evolved in the moist tropical regions in the early Cretaceous period, and since then there has been steady changes in the body of angiosperms. Now we will take the one by one how they have got evolved in different aspects. First we will take the habitat and then habit. Habitat, we can say that they have migrated already. The plants which are migrated towards the land, they are called as pteridophytes, and then after that we can say the gymnosperm, pteridosperms, and then we are having the angiosperms. So there has been a change in the habitat. So if you consider the habitat, the angiosperms are habituated in all land conditions. So that is the adaptive feature of the angiosperms. If you see the habit, there is a general trend of becoming smaller in size. Nowadays also we can see in many gadgets or many whatever the electronic gadgets are there, they are becoming smaller and smaller and more simple. So in the same way here, plants are also, or angiospermic plants are also getting evolved. So there has been a general trend from the bigger size to the smaller size. So therefore tree is getting evolved into the herbs. In between that we can say that there is a shrubby kind of a habitat. If you consider the leaf, so most simple or most primitive leaf is said to be the simple leaf, which is having a structure like this: one lamina to the one petiole. So one lamina to the one petiole, that means a simple leaf. If you see the pinnately compound leaf, so you will find many laminas or pinnas on a one petiole. This is the one petiole, and this is the entire leaf. So there are many lamina on a one petiole. So this is a pinnately compound leaf. Then again there is a dissection. That means this particular lamina, one lamina, is again getting dissected into the many pinna. So we get here bipinnately compound leaf. So the simple leaf is then converted into the, or it has got evolved into the pinnately compound leaf, and then it has got evolved into the bipinnately compound leaf. So therefore, so the pinnately compound leaf is said to be more evolved than the simple leaf. Next we move on to the evolution of the phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is nothing but the arrangement of the leaves on the stem. They are arranged in a peculiar manner so as to receive the sunlight. So alternate form of the leaf is said to be more simple or more primitive one. So it is then evolved into the opposite kind of the phyllotaxy, and then it has evolved into the whorl kind of the phyllotaxy. So in the whorl phyllotaxy, we can see that at the one node there are so many leaves or more than two leaves, and these particular condition can be seen in the nerium and many other plants. So here the whorl condition is most advanced one, and the alternate condition is more primitive one. So next we take the evolution in xylem. Angiosperms are having the specialty in having, that is, the vessels. So how these vessels, so this is the one vessel element. So how this one vessel element have got evolved in case of the angiosperms. So initially, if you consider the pteridosperms or the gymnosperms, they were having the tracheids. So this trachid in the course of evolution has got reduced. So some of the border pits or the pits, simple pits, they have aggregated at the end or the poles of the trachid, and due to the reduction, these particular bordered pits or the pits, simple pits, they have aggregated more towards the ends, and when the ultimate stage reached, when the tracheids have become more broader than their length, then these pits are evolved into the perforation plate. So this is the course of the evolution, we can say that, through which the vessels in the angiosperms have got evolved. Next we consider, that is, evolution of vascular bundles. So if you consider the dicot stem, I have drawn here the just outline of the TS of dicot stem. So if you consider all the vascular bundles, we can see here one vascular bundle. So one vascular bundle is having the xylem towards the center, and this green one, that is a phloem, towards the periphery of the stem, and in between that yellow strip, here it is represented by the yellow strip, that is the cambium. So in dicot, the vascular bundles are conjoint, collateral, and they are open due to the presence of cambium, because this cambium carries out the secondary growth, and therefore this cambium is important. So such condition is prevalent in the dicots. But in case of the monocots, we do not see the cambium element. So here there is a phloem. So a real-time diagram, it is not a diagram, it is a real-time picture of the image taken through the microscope of the monocot. So here monocot stem is showing this particular phloem elements, and then these are the xylem elements. So there is no cambium element in between the xylem element and the phloem element. So it is a closed kind of vascular bundle. That too, here the vascular bundles are arranged in the ring. Here the vascular bundles are not arranged in the ring, they are arranged in an arbitrary way. In a randomly way they are arranged inside the stem, and therefore this is the feature which is making the monocots more evolved than the dicots. So we can say that in case of the vascular bundles, the monocots are more evolved than the dicot. So open type of vascular bundles are said to be the primitive one, while the closed vascular bundles are said to be more advanced one. So the evolution of the inflorescence. Inflorescence is nothing but arrangement of the flowers on a common axis. So here we can see the racemose inflorescence, that is the panicle inflorescence, its subtype. So the panicle or the racemose inflorescence is said to be more primitive. So there has been a trend in reducing the number of flowers. So therefore in between that we are seeing here the cymose inflorescence, in which the flowers are reduced, or the number of flowers are very less. So such particular cymose condition is said to be the middle stage in the evolution, and the ultimate stage is said to be the solitary cyme, in which the one flower is present at a one stalk, and therefore it is quite evident in the particularly hibiscus, where only one flower is present at a one stalk, and therefore it is said to be the more evolved than the panicle inflorescence. So reducing the number of flower reduces the energy required by the plant to produce the flower, and therefore we can say that in conserving the energy lies the adaptation features. So when the energy is conserved, we can say that the plant is having more chances of survival. So therefore here the solitary cyme is said to be more evolved condition than the panicle inflorescence. Next we are moving to the evolution of the flower. So already we have discussed in the earlier video that the magnolia flower is said to be the more primitive one, because it is having many number of the carpels and the many number of stamens arranged on a conical thalamus in a freely manner. That means the carpels and the stamens they are free. So there is a general tendency we can see in the angiosperm that in reducing the number of the floral whorls. So the floral whorls are reduced slowly. That too, there is a general tendency we can see in reduction in number of the stamens and the carpels. So we can see there are so many number of the stamens and the carpels. Here there are very less stamens and the carpels. Again there is a reduction, and in case of the euphorbia, here there is a inflorescence of the euphorbia pulcherrima, we can see here. So this euphorbia pulcherrima, it is having the, in Euphorbiaceae in the whole family we see the cyathem inflorescence. So this is the one cyathem inflorescence. So there is only one single female flower and there are so many male flowers. So what is exactly the female flower here? Female flower is only represented by one carpel, while the male flowers are represented by the stamens. So this entire particular flowers, number of flowers are present in a common cup, and this common cup in case of the Euphorbia pulcherrima is having the nectar gland outside. So this yellowish structure is a nectar gland, and this particular structure it tells us that the one carpel is considered to be the female flower and the one stamen is considered to be the male flower. So here there are no corolla and the calyx, and even the other sexual organ or the whorl is absent, and therefore it is quite evident here there is a general tendency in the angiosperm that to reduce the number of the whorls. So therefore such condition where there are no calyx and corolla, or there is no perianth, is said to be the more evolved condition. Next, I will take up the evolution of stamens. Stamens, as like the carpels, are also evolved from the leaf-like structures. So earlier stamens were like this; they were having the laminar structure, and at the top or in the middle of this particular lamina, the two anther lobes were present. Now this laminar structure has got reduced to a large extent. Here you can see that it is reduced again, it has got reduced, and it has reduced till the two anther lobes are joined together, and the lower portion of this particular leaf has converted into the filament. So nowadays we can see the anther lobe at the top and the filament, it is acting like the stalk of this particular stamen. So here the evolution of stamens is going on in this manner. Now the evolution of gynoecium. Gynoecium is, that is the carpel, has got evolved from the leaf-like structure, therefore we call the carpel as pistil. So meaning of the pistil is nothing but the leaf-like structure. On these pistils there were many ovules arranged on the margins. Now during the course of evolution, what has got happened is that the lamina or this pistil leaf has folded inward like this here. So initially it was like this, then it has got folded inward, and then here all the ovules are present inside now. That means the margin is covering all the ovules. Slowly, this particular leaf-like structure has rolled inward, and it has formed a hollow pouch-like structure. You can see a hollow pouch-like structure here, and here in this the ovules are enclosed inside it. So today we see such kind of carpel in case of the Papilionaceae, in which in case of entire Leguminosae, in which the placenta are arranged at the margin. So in case of the Leguminosae, there is a marginal placentation which is said to be the primitive one. So if you can see in case of the cluster bean, so in cluster bean, this particular union of the margins of the pistillary leaf is quite evident in the form of the dorsal suture. You can see here the dorsal suture of the leaf. So what is the suture means? Suture means a sort of mark of a joining. So mark of a joining can be evident on the cluster beans or so many beans. So therefore it is the proof of it is that the leaf like structure or pistillary leaf like structure have evolved into such kind of the ovule. Now we'll take up the next evolution of placentation. Initially, as we have stated, the marginal placentation was most primitive. Then such kind of single ovules are aggregated. You can see here aggregated at the center, and then they have joined together at the center by forming a single axis. So from this marginal placentation, or the carpels or the pistils have got joined at the center, 4 or 5 pistils, and then axial placentation have got evolved. So this is the axial placentation. Now axial placentation, if you see it in the LS of the ovary, it appears like this. It appears like this. So there is a centrally placed axis, and then to this axis there are so many ovules arranged. This is the this is the TS of the ovary, and this is the LS of the ovary. Here the placenta are attached to the center or at the axis, central axis. So during the course of the evolution, what has happened, that this particular axis have reduced from bottom to the top. So if it is reduced from the bottom to the top, so in this case only single ovule is present at the top. So this is the ovary, this is style, and this is the stigma, and at the base of the stigma you will find that there is a single ovule. So such kind of placentation is called as pendulous placentation. Now if the axis is reduced from top to the bottom, if it is reduced from the top to the bottom, then we get the basal placentation, which is quite evident in the sunflower family or Asteraceae. So here basal placentation is said to be again evolved one. So the marginal placentation or the marginal placentation is primitive one, while the pendulous and the basal placentation is said to be the evolved placentation. So there is another trend we see from the axial placentation, that is the parietal placentation. So what has happened here? This centrally attached ovules have shifted slowly by the reduction of this particular septa. By reduction of the septa, they have again slowly moved to the periphery of the ovary, and we see here attachment of the placenta at the periphery of the ovary, and therefore here the parietal placentation has evolved. So there is a different directions in case of the placentation. We can say that the placentation have evolved in different directions. So the one direction goes to the pendulous placentation, another one goes to the basal placentation, and the third one goes to the parietal placentation. So we can say that marginal placentation is most primitive, while the pendulous, basal and the parietal placentation, we can say that the more evolved stages in case of placentation. Now we will take the evolution of the fruit. So the simple fruit, which is having the epicarp, mesocarp and the endocarp, which is evident in the mango or the drupe. So the mesocarp is the middle one, epicarp is the outer skin, or that it is the rind of it, and the endocarp, which is very rigid kind of the seed case. So it is here, we can see it is a simple fruit, and this simple fruit is then converted into the false fruit, or it has got evolved into the false fruit. Here the thalamus is producing the fruit. So in this case the ovary is converted into the fruit, while in this case the thalamus is accumulating the food, it is storing the food, and it is acting as the fruit. Okay, in this case here the thalamus is again acting as the fruit in case of the cashew. In this pineapple we are seeing here the thalamus is acting as the fruit, and while the flowers are getting vanished. So whatever the scars we see on the pineapple, these are nothing but the flowers, reduced flowers, or these are the sterile flowers. Already we have seen it in the first year. Now in case of cashew nut, we find that the thalamus is getting enlarged, it is acting as the fruit, but the flower remains fertile while it is producing the seed outside the fruit, and ovary is at the top of the thalamus, but this ovary is not producing the fruit, it is producing the seed while the thalamus is producing the fruit. So therefore here it has been the general trend in the evolution that the simple fruit is converted into the complex fruit, or the seedless fruits, or it is converted into the fruit in which the seed is outside the fruit. So that is the evolution in case of the fruit. So therefore we conclude this particular session in which we have seen the evolution of different parts of the angiosperms. I hope you have understood it. Thank you.